Hey, 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 it's Tia, baby. And I am back with another video. So I know I've been away for a very long time. And, um, yeah, and it's because of life. I said that, and I made not a promise to myself, but I said to myself that I will put out a video at least every day or more frequently from now until up until Selena's birthday, which is April 16th. Just out of celebration of Selena. And by doing that, I'm going to do a continuation of reading the rest of the chapters of Selena with Love by Chris Perez. I believe I stopped on towards the end of chapter 5, so I'm going to pick up where I left off. But I do want to say that I love that dedication video of Selena, rare pictures of Selena and Selena with Chris. It was on Selena, I think it's Selena Q Perez. I think that's the IG page that I saw it on, and I gave them a shout out on my story because it was just pictures that I had never seen, and it was nice to see that. At least someone is doing that because you know people that have access to everything Selena, I feel like should be putting never before things out, and even if they don't want to put it out on social media or like, platforms like YouTube, at least, make a documentary, DVD or put it on do it Netflix because they have some type of connection with Netflix. They can do like home video of Selena on Netflix and make money that way if that's what they want to make more money, and that will give us a opportunity to see never before scenes of Selena, whether at home or backstage, during performances or even during performances that we haven't seen before, and interviews in English and Spanish. So hey, I'm throwing out ideas for these people, and they still haven't done anything. But enough with that. I'm going to, read a continuation for Selena, to Selena with Love. So here we go. My father has seen me make more than one mistake, usually with cars or alcohol. He had even come to the rescue a few times. By the look on his face, I could tell that now he was really worried that I had made another one. I said, "Nothing, Dad. Everything's fine." I swallowed hard. "But we did it." "You did what?" I couldn't even say the word married. It wasn't a word that was going to just roll off my tongue. How do you go from being in a secret relationship to announcing to the world that you're married? "We did it," I said again. "I still don't understand." My father said, "Selena and I got married." I managed. "What?" I had a chair in my room that I used to sit in to practice guitar. Now Dad sat down really slowly on the chair and shook his head. I could tell that for him this wasn't bad news exactly, but it wasn't good news either. "Damn," he said. My father, always ready for a conversation, was nearly speechless. As I stood there watching him, I realized why. After being in a marriage that didn't work out, after struggling to create relationships with kids he never lived with, my father knew that marrying young or marrying at any age wasn't always going to end up the way you thought it might. "Man," he said now, clenching his fist a little, "why did Abraham have to push you like that? What did he think was going to happen?" "It's okay, Dad," I reassured him. "It's a good thing. Everything is cool." A sudden movement in the doorway made me glance in that direction. Selena was standing there now. looking in her brown eyes so huge that it was almost comical. My father turned around and slowly got to his feet when he saw Selena. He then took a couple steps towards her, and Selena rushed into his arms where he folded her to a big hug. We sat and talked with my father for a while, and then he drove over to my mom's. We drove over to my mom's. I'm not sure what possessed Selena and me to go there, of all places, for our wedding night. I guess we were both feeling pretty shaky and just needed to be someplace where we knew we would be accepted as who we were. Newlyweds who had just promised to love, honor, and cherish one another for a lifetime. Nothing more and certainly nothing less. At any rate, we drove to my mother's house and told her and Pops the news. Again, I had trouble getting the words out. Mom, we did it, I said. What did you do? She asked, looking from Selena to me. You know, Mom, the M word. As close as she was to my mother, Selena must have been really nervous here, too, for she suddenly announced, I have to go to the bathroom, and fled. My mother and stepfather reacted to our news much the same way my dad had. They knew how in love we were, and they were happy to hear that we were married, but they both thought it was a shame that Selena and I had been driven to marry so young and in secret. Finally, in bed that night, Selena and I talked about what might happen next. We agreed to live in Selena's apartment in Corpus, a place that she had been using as a studio of sorts for her fashion design hobby. As long as her father didn't harass us once we started living there. You're coming back to the band, Selena said. She was asking me and telling me at the same time. No, I told her, no way. After everything I've been through with your father and Los Dinos, I have no desire to deal with that stuff. She sat up in the bed next to me. What are you talking about? It's not going to be like that. You don't know what's going to happen, I said. Neither of us knows what Abraham would do. She didn't like hearing that, but it was true. I wasn't about to drop what I was doing to run back to the band. I was pretty convinced that I'd be better off on my own than with Los Dinos. Suddenly, my mother's house phone rang. It was AB. The family had been trying to track down Selena all day, he said, and they knew about our marriage. Today, of course, people would have been tweeting or texting or blogging about it before she and I even made it out of the courthouse. Even without all that, news of our marriage had spread within an hour. The clerks at City Hall had probably told their friends, hey, guess who got marriage license today? This gossip had led people in the music business to catch wind of it. DJs started phoning Abraham's house to see if the news was true. A few radio stations even announced the news. Selena's face paled when she first started talking to her brother and discovered that everyone in her family knew about our marriage by now. Then all of a sudden, her brother said something that made her laugh. That was a good sign, I thought, feeling my stomach unclench a little bit. Suddenly, Selena thrust the phone in my direction. Abby wants to talk to you, she said. My reaction was to say no, but Selena gave me this look, and I knew I didn't have a choice. Abby had a quality that he shared with Selena, an ability to disarm within seconds of starting up a conversation. No matter how set you might be against him, he did that with me now. As soon as I got to the phone, AB said, welcome to the family, bro. And then he was laughing, and I couldn't help it. I started laughing too, because the whole situation seemed so surreal. Plus, ABCDFG and I had started out as friends before I became involved with his little sister, as I wanted to be with him as much as I wanted to hang on to my anger because everyone in the band had turned their backs on me. When I heard ABCDFG say those words, my anger just melted away, gone. We talked a little more, and ABCDFG did apologize at last. Man, I'm sorry things went the way they did, he said, but it's all right now. Y'all married, and it's for the best. You're coming on the road with us, right? The question caught me off guard. Well, I said, trying to think past the shocks that just kept coming. Do you all want me back? Of course, he said. Who else can play the guitar like you can? Is your dad cool with that? I asked. He's going to have to accept it, ABCDFG said. He's a little upset right now. He's not taking the news very well, but he'll get used to the idea. Of course, that wasn't quite what I wanted to hear, but what else had I expected? All right, I said. If you say it's cool, then I'll come back. I do. Tell my sister that I love her, and I'll see you guys soon. ABCDFG said, welcome to the family, brother-in-law. We both started laughing again, and then I hung up. Selena had been listening to all of this, of course. She had been happy before. Now she was ecstatic. Everything was falling into place just as she had hoped. We fell back into the bed and wrapped our arms around each other, still amazed at our good fortune. We had found each other, and our love had proved stronger than any obstacles thrown our way. Chapter 6. Our first month as man and wife. The next day, Selena and I moved into her apartment in Corpus and started our honeymoon. Her father showed up at our door hours after we arrived. Dictator's expression was unreadable. I felt my hands go cold and my heart started pounding. I was determined to be civil. This was Selena's father after all, but I wasn't about to invite him inside. How could I trust this man who had done nothing but hurl insults at me since finding out that I loved his daughter? The worst case scenario, as I saw it, was that Abraham would accept me without really accepting me, if you know what I mean. Maybe he would invite me into the band again to keep Selena happy. But there was a good possibility that he might act like I was family when Selena was around, but otherwise make it clear that he was still displeased. Clear enough that the other band members might continue giving me the cold shoulder. I was therefore polite when Abraham arrived, but reserved. I no longer trust a man any more than he trusted me. Selena stayed inside the apartment while Dictator and I talked outside. I never thought to ask her later if she known Dictator was coming over. He did that often after we were married, just dropped by unannounced, so she may have had no idea that Dictator was on his way. I had been expecting the worst, so I was surprised when Dictator held things together. He didn't say anything derogatory. And in fact, he even began with an apology. He if he'd been wearing a hat, he might have even taken it off and twisted it in his hands. I shouldn't have been the way that I was, he said. I hope you know that I was only protecting Selena. I told him that I did know that, but I was still offended and hurt. When we were on the road together, I spent more time with you and your family than I did with my own family. I pointed out, you should know me by now. I would never do anything to hurt Selena. I love her. He nodded, accepting this, it seemed. Then Dictator became businesslike, the mode he was most comfortable in. I knew, are you coming back to the band? He asked. I could have taken a stance and resisted, not just to be contrary, but because I was truly happy playing around San Antonio with Rudy and Albert, and working as an independent musician. Did I really want all the baggage that would come with rejoining Los Dinos and the Quintanilla family? Again, though, I tried to see things from Dictator's point of view. He must have been humiliated and angry when he heard that Selena and I had gotten married behind his back, because he had no idea of the true nature of our relationship and didn't even know how long we had been seeing each other. It must have been a total shock when strangers telephoned to tell him that his beloved youngest daughter, who in his eyes had the potential to be a superstar, had gone against his wishes and married a long-haired guitarist whom he didn't deem worthy. I decided that if Selena's father could behave so professionally with all of his emotions surely swirling around inside him, I could too. Plus, I knew how happy Selena would be if I rejoined Los Dinos. I'll come back if you want me to, I said. It's up to you and ABCDFG. Selena wants you in the group, um, Dictator said gruffly. And then he actually gave me a hug. He was shaking a little with emotion. Feeling the tremor in his body, I realized once again how devastated a Dictator must have been when he discovered that Selena had gone against his wishes, and how much it had cost him to come over here and accept me into the family. Selena was his baby girl, and I know that man loved her more than his life. But Dictator had apologized, and he was trying to keep it possible for us to have a relationship both within the family and in the band. I respected him for that. We went into the apartment together then. Selena and Dictator hugged each other for a long time. She started crying, and then Dictator did too. I'm sorry I pushed you kids into a corner, Dictator said at last. Let's just continue from here. We'll go on doing what we were doing as a band, and we'll move forward over this bump in the road. So we embraced, said our apologies, and agreed to move on. It was a good thing we did too, because things were ready to explode on the music scene for Selena y Los Dinos. To celebrate our love, I decided to pay a special tribute to Selena with my favorite guitar. The guitar was a white Jackson soloist. It was the first electric guitar I had even bought that was considered top of the line, and it did everything I needed it to do. Even when I upgraded to a Fender Stratocaster, I kept the Jackson with me as a backup guitar on stage and still played it now and then. One night, Selena and I were doing a show in Austin when my good friend Tony Gonzalez stopped by. Tony was an artist. He had designed painted a number of shirts for me. When he came by the bus after the show, he brought me a t-shirt with a portrait of Selena on it, and that gave me an idea. I had always wanted a guitar with artwork on it, but I didn't want anything mass produced. I also wanted to choose artwork that really symbolized everything important in my life. Hey, Tony, I said, can you paint my guitar? He looked startled. Dude, yeah, I can paint anything, but that's your guitar, man. I know, but I really want you to do this thing for me. I told him that I wanted him to paint a portrait of Selena right on the Jackson white face. When Tony agreed, I started taking the guitar apart right there on the bus. Selena came by and saw me in the bus with this stranger, and I had screwdriver in my hand, and the Jackson was in pieces all over the bus table. Selena gasped, Chris, what's happened to your guitar? I introduced her to Tony and said, Tony's a good friend of mine, and he's an artist. We go way back. Here, look. I showed her the shirt Tony had painted. You did that? Selena exclaimed, the shirt clearly impressed. Yeah, Tony said. He's a shy person and never would have shown her anything, but he was pleased by her reaction. I'm going to have him paint a picture on my guitar, I said. Jack. Selena just stared at me like I'd gone insane. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure, Tony said. So what do you want, Chris? He already knew that I wanted a portrait of Selena. He also knew enough not to tell her. Surprise me, I said. Just do what you do. What's he going to paint on there? Selena asked. Oh, it's just going to be a black and white portrait, nothing major. By now, I had the guitar faced off. I handed it to Tony and stored all of the little metal bits and strings in the plastic bag. The next time we played in Austin, Tony brought my guitar back with his gorgeous picture of Selena on it. I put the guitar back together in secret while Selena was busy getting dressed for the show. And then I just carried the Jackson out to the stage and set it on the stand as my backup guitar. When she came out, I said, here, check out what Tony did. I pointed at the Jackson. Selena covered her mouth and her eyes went wide. She was all smiles and totally tripping. I can't believe you did that for me. See, I told you Tony's a good artist. Selena loved that guitar To be honest, I felt a little weird playing the Jackson at first because our marriage was still so new. But after a while, I was very proud of it. The fans loved the guitar too. They would take pictures of me playing it or just photos of the guitar on its stand. At the same time that Tony brought over my Jackson, he gave Selena and me a gift, a 3 foot by 4 by 4 foot painting of Selena's face, and handed that he had done in black, gray, and white. The painting fit our art decor perfectly. We hung it above the couch between a pair of tall floor lamps with smoky gray glass bowls. When we turned the Fender switch down on the lights, Selena's face was the only thing you can see in the living room. I still treasure that painting. In the Tejano world, groups knock out knock out their albums fast. We were no exception. The Quintanilla family had an incredible work ethic, and I continued learning a lot from ABCDFG. We could put together an album in a month or less, and that included writing the songs out of thin air as well as arranging, producing, and recording them. There are simple ways to play Tejano music, but we were continuing to incorporate new sounds. I was a good enough guitar player that could play broken chords, sustained notes, and a lot of different rhythms. Even though we were playing within a certain genre, I was like AB, CDFG in the sense that I wanted to think outside the box and do something different. Basically, anytime we were ready to make an album, we booked the studio for a week and recorded the whole album at once. In the weeks leading up to that, we spent time perfecting the songs ABCDFG's bedroom studio. He lived in a house next to Dictator. At the studio, instrumental and vocal tracks had to be recorded separately and from beginning to end before they could be mixed. If you messed one of those up, you had to go back and start over. During my first year with Los Dinos, we had released an album comprised with Selena's old songs before because Capital EMI had bought them from the previous labels and they wanted them recorded. For that album, we recorded the songs exactly as they had been written originally. I simply played the same guitar part that had already been done before. I wasn't the kind of guy who was going to try to take over. I was being as true as I could to be the guitar sounds they had on those songs originally, to the point that most people probably didn't even realize it was a different guitar player. But in creating Entre Mudo in 92, we broke out that mold and came up with the truly innovative sounds. The album shot up to top of the charts and went gold fast. My favorite song on the album, Como La Flor, was written by Pete and ABCDFG while we were on Big Bertha touring in late 1991. The song's simple, plaintive melody and aching lyrics tell the story of someone who sees her old love with someone new and must move on. She wishes him the best and compares their love to a flower that was withered and died. Camila Flor was the first solo song of Selena's to really take off, especially in Mexico. The song became a fan favorite and one of Selena's signature songs. Selena really loved to sing all the songs we did, but Camila Flor was probably her favorite. As it gained popularity, we began either opening or closing our sets with that particular song with fans singing along to the chorus. Ah, como me duele. The bigger that song got, the greater our connection was with the crowd. Even though I love Camila Flor, I don't think it would have been such a popular song if Selena hadn't been the one singing it. The lyrics and music aren't what make the song special. It's the emotion of Selena's voice. Every time she sang Camila Flor, that emotion came through and it was real. I've heard a lot of people singing it since, but nobody can touch people's hearts with the song the way Selena did. Entre a mi mudo propelled us to another level in the music business entirely. The album was number one on Billboard's regional Mexican album chart and was called the number one regional Mexican album of the year. More importantly, this album made it onto the top Latin 50 chart. We had done it. EMI now consider us a commercial group. It was one of the happiest times in my life. I was making music, Selena and I were married and still madly in love. And the band was poised to enter the international market. Of course, because every one of us had become from hard times, we never let our successes go to our heads and took nothing for granted, especially Dictator. We have a number one hit. So what? Dictator would say. Any clown can get to number one. The question is, can you do it again? We didn't know, but we were sure going to try. Selena harder than anyone. He hoped that we were in the right place at the right time. Latin music seemed to be everywhere that year, playing on the radios all across the U.S. and not just in our corner of the Southwest. Billboard magazine had even started Hot Latin Songs, which tracked Latin music in the American music market. This chart was based on airplay on Spanish language radio stations, but the songs didn't have to be in Spanish. Selena's idol, Rocio Derkel, put out the first song to reach number one on the chart, La Granada. Since then, the chart had featured its hit by Shanae, Luis Miguel, Marco Antonio Salas, Ana Gabriel, Gloria Estefan, and Selena herself, whose duet with Alvaro Torres, Buenos Amigos, hit number one the year we were married. Within this mix, Selena y Los Dinos were representing regional Mexican or Tejano music, but in a completely new and different light. We were striving to set ourselves apart from other groups in the Tejano world. We weren't those guys wearing cowboy hats, Wrangler jeans, and boots. None of the other Tejano bands were as young as we were. Besides being young, we were all incredibly energetic, talented, and willing to do whatever it took to create a unique sound. Ricky Vela was writing creative songs with heavy arrangements. I brought in the rock and roll element because I had been in the top 40 cover band and I love experimenting on the guitar. Joe, our keyboardist, was raised in the border of town of Laredo, so he brought that traditional street music. Pete, our other singer and songwriter, brought in complex lyrics and melodies with lots of chords. ABCDFG held down the bass line and arranged our songs to highlight Selena's vocals. And Selena put her soul into singing. We were poised and ready to cross over into the international music like scenes like Gloria Estefan. Soon after Selena and I were married, the band was invited to perform in Las Vegas at the Premio Lo Nuestro Awards for Latin musicians, sponsored by Billboard. This was the first hint I had of fame that would soon come bearing our way. Something was wrong with Big Bertha, so we all piled into a 15-passenger van and drove nonstop to Las Vegas from Corpus. This wasn't the most comfortable way to ride 1,400 miles, but as always, the cool thing about Los Dinos was that all of us were determined to do whatever it took to propel our music to the top of the charts. We never complained. We just did what we had to do, especially Selena. We arrived at Caesar's Palace at about 10 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't believe that I was in this city that I had always heard so much about, but had seen only on TV and in movies. The sight of so many neon lights had me reeling. The lights, the smells, the sounds of the coins dropping in the slot machines, it was almost too much stimulation for me to handle. I'll never forget checking into our suite at the Palace with Selena. Not because it was a cool room, though it was. Really, it wouldn't have mattered to me if they had given us a matchbox size room in the basement. It was just such a joy to have our relationship out in the open. And to hear people say, well, they're married, so they should get the suite. We were finally able to be on our own without having to think of excuses or sneak around behind dictators' back. Selena and I laid and slept for a little while, trying to recover from the long drive. I was so excited to be in Las Vegas, though. I soon got up and went downstairs by myself to play the slot machines. Within an hour, I had hit and won enough quarters to fill up my little white plastic cup. I was so excited that I walked so fast as I could back to the elevator. I couldn't wait to show my big winnings to Selena. Back in the room, I dumped the quarters on the bed and started counting them. I was convinced that I won at least $1,000. The cup was that heavy. It turned out that it maybe $60 in all. Selena laughed, but when she saw my crestfallen expression, she said, "Come on, let's go back down there. I'll show you how it's done." She put on her clothes and went downstairs. "Are you crazy?" I asked when Selena got $100 bill in dollar coins. "Just watch," she said. "If you see somebody playing a slot machine but nothing winning, it's starting to get hot. We'll go play it as soon as the person leaves." Finally, we spotted a guy who had been playing on the same slot machine who just kept losing and losing. The minute he left, Selena said, "Okay, let's go get it." We walked over to the machine and started feeding it coins. Selena went to the first to put $3 in, and when I tried to stop her, freaking out that about over that too, she said, "If you put in just $1 at a time, you don't get as much as if you put three." "Wait, that's a lot of money," I protested. I couldn't get my head around this whole concept of possibly losing so much money. Then again, I never was that kind of risk taker Selena was all her life. "Shh," Selena said. "Just push this button here so it spins, and I'll do the lever thing." We did that 3 times, and that's all it took. The machine started spitting dollar coins, and before I knew it, we had $300 in our hands. After playing the slots for a little while longer, Selena said, "Let's go play blackjack." "Are you crazy?" I said, "I'm not sitting at one of those tables and losing money. I don't know anything about playing blackjack." "Come on, it's easy," She said. "No, no, no," I said. "What's the matter?" she teased. "Can't you count fast enough?" I folded my arms. "Say what you want. I'm not playing." Selena laughed. "Okay, then watch what I do. If you want to do it, just jump in." So I watched again, and Selena amazed me. I had no idea if she ever played blackjack before, or if once again. She just put her mind to something and learned it faster than anybody else could have. Selena sat down at one of those blackjack tables, and within minutes, she had mastered all of the hand signals. She tapped on the table or waved her hand over her cards, and even slid her cards under the chips when she wanted to stand. Selena lost a few hands and quickly discussed it with herself. "Let's go." She but she hated to lose anything, so I knew that wasn't the end of it. Sure enough, Selena returned to that same table a little while later, sat down and played a few hands until she started winning, then smiling that full, waddish smile of hers. She said, "All right, I'm out." She didn't care about the money. She just wanted to know that she could win. At the Vegas show, I realized for the first time that we had been big fish in the small Tohono pond. But now we were swimming in a much bigger pond with more exotic fish. Our old friends La Mafia were there. That group now included my friend Rudy on bass, so it was a bit of a reunion for us. I was hanging with those guys while Selena went off to do some shopping with Suzette, when all of a sudden I saw Ricky Martin heading towards us. He was just making his name as a solo artist after a huge career with the group Menudo. "Hey, I like your work. What's going on?" Ricky said. As we stood there talking, I realized with amazement that musicians I admired were actually listening to our music. In addition to performing at the Billboard show, we walked away with the Regional Mexican Music Award, and it became clear to all of us that we were achieving our goal of having our music recognized internationally. It was time to cross the border and play in Mexico and Latin America, the next logical step before we broke into the mainstream English market. So that is the end of chapter 6, and I will read chapter 7 tomorrow, hopefully. So I will get this video out March 31st. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it. See you later. Peace.